Hey Kings, what's poppin'? It's me, James of Regret, and this topic isn't the kind I usually cover, but the hesitation to cover this topic by large media outlets has convinced me to try my hand at it. Again, this isn't something I usually cover, so bear with me. This all started when a vigilante YouTube channel called People v Preds recently caught the vice president of PSN Engineering being a kiddie diddler, soliciting wiener pics from minors and proposing to do explicit acts with them, let's just say. Now, I'm usually wary of these kinds of channels as I usually suspect they're in it for the clicks. But regardless of whether they are only in it for clout, this seems to be a very valid catch. I ran through the evidence they presented and it doesn't look good for George the Kiddie Diddler here. At all. For those that want to self-verify, I'll leave a link to the original Google Drive evidence folder as well as a secondary backup link to check it out if the first link gets taken down. So we'll start chronologically. These events start with People v Preds, which henceforth will be referred to as PvP for brevity's sake, baiting another kiddie diddler in their crusade to expose them all. As detailed in these conversation logs that they posted, Mr. George here seems to be quite fond of gobbling up sausages, not of the grilled variety, unfortunately. Now, normally this wouldn't be much cause for concern. You see, unlike some countries, men in America that enjoy getting pegged don't get mandatory one-way ropeless bungee jumping sessions off of tall buildings. However, it becomes a problem when one of the guys getting pegged is underage, which is not good. I shouldn't have to explain to you why underage pegging quite simply is not a good thing. If you disagree with this assessment, you are objectively a horrid person and you should be removed from society post-haste. Anyways, back on track. Georgie boy here started off immediately by sending 2 wiener portraits which thankfully have been censored for the sake of our mental health. Even after PvP made the claim that they were a minor, George kept pushing on with the whole thing, which honestly should tell you everything you need to know about the kind of dude he is. He could have stopped this at any moment and said that the kid shouldn't be on a dating app like this, but he pushed on anyways. After further exchanges between PvP and the kiddie diddler, Georgie boy here asks the supposed kid to come over to his house at 3 AM. Which, well, given my audience demographics, I'm sure the vast majority of you understand the implications of that invite. Once they've hashed out the details of the meetup, Georgie here sent over what I can only assume is his phone number. Which is kind of stupid, but hey, what man hasn't made a horrible mistake while all horned up? You can honestly tell he was down bad for that boy wiener right now since PvP managed to bait him into sending an actual selfie of his own face, which PvP promptly ran through a facial comparison program which determined that Old Man George here is indeed the VP of PSN Engineering. Beyond this, PvP managed to convince the old creep to wait outside of his house for their arrival, just to be sure. All of the pieces fell into place right after this. There was no turning back now. It was all or nothing. PvP got into a car and made his way to boy bumbanger George's address. To the creep's utter disappointment, he wasn't greeted by a 15-year-old twink, but by an angry dude with a camera shaming him for being a kiddie diddler. Now, believe it or not, this wasn't the most interesting bit in this whole case. Rich corpos being kiddie diddlers? Bah, that's to be expected. What really piqued my interest the most was how hesitant or outright unwilling some outlets were when it came to reporting on this news. Case in point, IGN.
But James, you made an entire video defending IGN from a guy calling them dishonest liars. How could you turn around and call them dishonest liars now?
Well, Mr. Convenient Strawman, if you paid attention to that video you mentioned, you would have noted that I was defending that video, and that video specifically, not the rest of IGN. Note that I made no effort to rebuke King Trash when he said that IGN wasn't a reliable source, because generally speaking they're not. Thing is though, a broken clock can still be right twice a day. Their assessment of Halo Infinite's multiplayer might be on the more optimistic side, but the points they brought up are still pretty valid. Unfortunately, this situation with boy lover George is one of those times where IGN misses, and they missed very, very hard. You see, one of IGN's head editors, one Mr. Dan Stapleton, said in a now deleted tweet that IGN would not cover Georgie the boy lover's boy-loving escapade since it wasn't real news. He also added that since the subject wasn't entertainment-related, the story didn't fall under IGN's purview. The sheer amount of nonsense coming out of Stapleton's mouth would make one think he was a black belt in the ancient martial art of bullshido. There are plenty of cases from the past that IGN covered which, if judged by the current standards of Mr. Stapleton, would be considered not entertainment related. Let's look at a few of them, shall we? October 28, 2021, IGN covered Skyrim IRL TikTok star Jin Kid's arrest. Jin Kid's actions here were not entertainment related, as he shot his wife and her friend over their failing marriage. Neither TikTok, Skyrim, nor his Skyrim IRL series had anything to do with his actions. However, this didn't stop IGN from tagging TikTok into the article they wrote covering the whole situation. This whole story strikes me as general crime and not entertainment related. Now, one could reasonably argue that since Jin Kid's name carried some weight online, this warranted his crimes being covered. However, I'd argue back that the rank of a VP in a multinational conglomerate, especially one so dominant in current year gaming, would give the person far more gravitas in the entertainment scene, thus warranting at least some form of coverage. So, reasonably speaking, IGN should have been more inclined to cover Georgie the Kiddie Diddler's story over Jin Kid's. October 1, 2021, IGN covered a Taiwanese esports player getting arrested over marijuana dealing charges. Once again, not entertainment related. The closest the story gets to being entertainment related is the suggestion that the guy used his fame to create a network of clients. Again, by all regards, this story is just about as entertainment related as the PSN VP diddling kids. And by that, I mean it's a very marginal relationship at best. September 7, 2021. IGN covered Tripwire's now ex-CEO John Gibson applauding the state of Texas in their anti-abortion policies. He made the statement independent of his company without mentioning the company or any of the games it made. However, this didn't stop Game Journos, IGN staff included, from dogpiling his Twitter account. Again, the tweet that instigated the whole debacle was not related to entertainment whatsoever. And to add to this, John Gibson, the CEO of Tripwire, is not a name that's well known in the industry. Hell, just looking up the name John Gibson on Google lands you on some hockey player's profile instead. If old creep George's story here wasn't real news, then neither was John Gibson's. June 17, 2021, IGN covered Scott Cawthon of Five Nights at Freddy's fame and his dastardly crime of donating to Donald Trump and the Republican Party. The whole damn situation didn't have a thing to do with his games. At all. The situation at hand is not game, movie, TV, tech, or even science related, but IGN still felt the need to cover the topic. Even though, by Mr. Stapleton's metrics, this isn't something that falls under IGN's purview. May 15, 2021, IGN made a post promoting and advocating charities involved in the Israel-Palestine conflict. I don't believe I have to explain how this whole situation has zero connection to gaming, movies, TV, tech, or science in any way, shape, or form. What's probably the most ridiculous bit in this whole situation is that IGN has an Israeli office, and they didn't take too kindly to their higher-ups making an extremely one-sided post on a conflict that could directly affect what happened to the people in the Israeli office. The sheer amount of stupidity in this situation simply knew no bounds. In an updated statement, IGN staffers wrote that IGN as a whole was dedicated to using their platforms and reach to support causes that need to be supported, and that they would continue supporting causes that they believe is humanitarian in nature. March 15, 2021, IGN had an article about a developer working on the Harry Potter game Hogwarts Legacy. His crime? Having mildly conservative opinion. Articles were written within less than 24 hours covering the dev's tweets and personal YouTube channel, again none of which were linked to his work as a game dev. He held hardly any rank of importance, definitely far less worthy of note than the VP of a major multinational corporation. To take Mr. Stapleton's own words and turn it against him, Avalanche Studios had nothing to do with his actions as far as we can see. And he's not a name that anyone recognizes, so it's not really news. Why was this covered then? I could go on. There's a whole lot more articles posted by IGN that I could use to point out that Mr. Stapleton here is indeed talking out of his ass. But if I did that, we'd be here for days without end. Basically put, there's something sussy going on in IGN and other entertainment media outlets holding off on covering the story for so long. In fact, it took Sony firing the Kiddie Diddler himself before IGN wrote an article about the whole debacle. And even then, it's just a half-hearted cookie-cutter article basically rehashing everything that Sony wrote in their announcement. The lack of transparency from IGN's part has led to a lot of speculation as to why they decided to try and avoid writing about the topic. None of these speculations lead to very flattering conclusions. Out of all of these discussions though, this is arguably the most important question that a lot of people are asking. Given that IGN staffers have stated that they will continue to support movements they believe are worth supporting, why has the IGN staff deemed the exposing and elimination of predatory people from positions of power a cause not worthy of support? Isn't a world free of predators a dream we should all strive towards? Or is the IGN staff saying that the removal of kiddie diddlers from society is ultimately not a humanitarian cause which will create a better society? Your guess to their answer is as good as mine. And that just about wraps up this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share if you feel like it. This is Teams of Regret, wishing you all good luck and Godspeed. Signing out.